Yo! So this video is called One Weird Side Effect I Had on NoFap and Semen Retention. And what that weird side effect was that, especially if I did long bouts of semen retention, so not doing NoFap but also not having sex for, let's say, 2 weeks minimum. Or it can be a week, but let's say I'm doing NoFap, but I'm also engaged in sex with somebody on a semi-regular basis. This wasn't as amplified, but what that thing is that my emotions were very heightened. So whatever emotions I would feel were very heightened. So it would kind of like highlight and trigger certain things within me. So if I was to feel anger, usually it wouldn't be this deep. It wouldn't be this. It's like whatever I feel it like 5 to 10 times more than I usually would. So if I'm angry, it's like I feel it deeply. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but it is a weird side effect. I don't know if that's kind of saying to me, like, this is how you're supposed to feel. Because when you're doing NoFap, when you're fapping and you are on semen retention, you're kind of, there's a disconnection between your feelings, and you're kind of, if you're kind of pumping your brain with a lot of dopamine from porn and lots of social media and masturbating, I feel like that you kind of get disconnected and kind of get apathetic towards your feelings. So when you are doing NoFap and especially semen retention, there might be times where you feel something. Like there'd be times where I was watching a movie that was somewhat sad, and I feel that so much strongly if I'm on like 2, 3, 4+ weeks of semen retention. And occasionally NoFap, I would feel this, like if I'm seeing somebody and I'm not having sex for like a little bit, but I'm like, it's semi-regular, but like I go like a week or two without it. I will feel this too. You'll feel this like deep sense of feeling, and whatever you're feeling will be magnified, and it's like somewhat, it's not uncontrollable, but it's just like very heightened. Like you become more in touch, like you could feel these emotions deeply within your body, where before when I was watching porn or masturbating pretty regularly, I wouldn't feel things as deeply. It wouldn't be as magnified. If I were to feel sad, I would only go to a certain depth. Or if I was to feel angry, it wouldn't get to this level that it gets to when I'm doing semen retention. And I feel like also that has to do with your sexual energy, and it has to do with how when you aren't masturbating and you aren't releasing regularly, you have more energy. So you feel things more because you're more in tune with your body, and you just feel it more. So, I've watched a lot of videos about the side effects and, people's experience with NoFap and semen retention, but I haven't heard a lot of people, touch on this a lot. They talk a lot about like more sexual energy and more energy in general, but they didn't talk about, not as often. I saw a few people, not as often, people saying like, yeah, if I was to feel sad, I felt it deeply. If I was to feel angry, I felt it way harder. Or passion, I felt passion way more. And even times I would feel, many different emotions just way more than I would previously. And like I said, it's not necessarily a positive or negative thing, it's just something I realized, and I feel like that's just how we're naturally supposed to feel, because we're kind of, fucking up our systems by, constantly scrolling on social media, constantly masturbating, constantly watching porn, at least at the rate that we do in our society, with just access to millions and millions of websites and hits of dopamine on your phone. You're kind of disassociated from your feelings. People are less empathetic than they used to be, and people are less in touch with their feelings. So when you quit a lot of these things that fuck up your dopamine system and fuck up your brain, you feel things, the positive and the negative, more. There would be moments where I feel pure joy more than I felt before when I was masturbating. So it's not just the negative, but that's just more, it's more obvious when it's something negative. Like, wow, why do I feel so angry? And if I was in this situation previously when I was watching porn and masturbating more, I wouldn't feel it this deeply. But you also feel the positive things more. So it's like, usually if you're like this for positive emotions and here for negative, it like kind of the distance grows. So like you'll feel things way lower if they're negative and things way higher if they're positive. So anyway, I just wanted to share that experience that I had on NoFap and semen retention, and just see if there's anyone out there that also had a similar experience, and I'm curious to hear your story about that. Anyway, peace.